My husband, Mark, was kneeling in front of my sister's closet, his back to me. He reached into a dusty shoebox under a pile of sweaters. He pulled something out and his body froze. It was a stillness so complete, so absolute, that the air in the room seemed to turn to glass. He turned around to face me, his eyes wide with shock and something else I couldn't quite name. He held up a wallet, an old leather wallet of mine, one I thought I'd lost years ago. Then he whispered the 6 words that would set a bomb off in the middle of my life. Don't say a word. To grasp why that moment changed everything, let's go back 2 weeks. That's when my sister, Chloe, arrived to help us move. Buying a house was the single biggest thing Mark and I had ever done. It was this beautiful, chaotic, money-sucking, soul-lifting leap into our future. We found a charming little place with good bones that was desperate for a facelift. For weeks, our life was a blur of paint swatches, budget spreadsheets, and towers of boxes. We felt exhausted, thrilled, and completely in over our heads. And that's when my sister, Chloe, swooped in. "You two look like you're about to die," she'd said over the phone, her voice dripping with that warm concern she was so good at. "I'm taking 2 weeks off. I'm coming to help. Don't even try to say no." I felt a deep sense of relief that almost made me cry. Chloe was my only family, the only piece of my past I had left. Chloe and I lost our parents about 5 years ago, a year apart. Their passing left a huge gap in our lives that we've tried to fill for each other. She was my big sister, my best friend, my other half. We clung to each other through all the grief, promising it would always be us against the world. Having her there, right in the middle of the most stressful time of our lives, felt like a godsend. She showed up with a suitcase and a box of donuts, her smile as bright as ever. For the first few days, she was a whirlwind of pure efficiency. She packed our old apartment with an energy I admired. She labeled boxes with such precision that my chaotic way seemed pathetic. She seemed to know what she needed to do. "Don't even worry about your office," she told me, waving me away as I tried to sort through my paperwork. "I'll handle all this boring stuff. You and Mark go figure out the new kitchen." I felt a little guilty, but mostly I was so grateful. I despised paperwork. The thought of her sifting through old bills was a nightmare. It was one of the million things she did that made me feel so cared for. She insisted on handling the whole move. She arranged the movers and made sure every box went to the right room. She was indispensable. But looking back now, the clues were all there. They were like breadcrumbs I ignored, small off notes in her helpful song. One night we sat tired on the floor of our empty new living room, surrounded by takeout boxes. Chloe was looking at the closing documents for the house on the mantelpiece. "Wow," she whistled. "You guys are doing it. Big mortgage, big life. You wouldn't even notice if a few $1,000s, poof, disappeared, haha." Mark and I laughed, but her laugh was a little too sharp. I glanced at her, and for a split second her smile didn't reach her eyes. I brushed it off. It was a bad joke. Chloe had a weird sense of humor sometimes. A few days later, I was looking for the pre-approval letter for a new sofa. I found it in a stack of mail on the counter, but the envelope was already torn open. I frowned. "Hey, did you open this?" I asked her. She glanced over from the cabinet she was organizing. "Oh, shoot, sorry. It looks like junk mail. I must have opened it by mistake. My bad." It sounded plausible enough, but a little voice in the back of my head wondered why she'd opened mail that was so clearly addressed to me. Again, I pushed it down. "You're being paranoid. The stress is getting to you. I didn't want to find fault in her kindness. I needed her kindness." The weirdest parts, though, involved Mark. Chloe had always been fond of him, but her affection during those 2 weeks felt like a performance. She'd touch his arm when she laughed at his jokes a little too often. She would bring him a beer without asking. She remembered his favorite brand from long ago from one mention. It felt like she was trying so hard to be the perfect, cool sister-in-law. Mark was polite and mostly oblivious. He thought she was being friendly. But I saw something else, something I couldn't define that made my skin crawl. It felt less like she was trying to fit into our life and more like she was trying it on for size. Then stuff started to go missing. Little things at first. A bottle of my favorite perfume, which Mark bought for our anniversary, is gone from the bathroom. I was sure I had packed it. "It'll turn up," Chloe said breezily when I told her. "Things always get lost in a move." She was right, of course. A week later, I noticed my expensive diamond earrings were missing. They were a graduation gift from my parents. I tore my luggage apart, sick to my stomach, convinced I had to have misplaced them. They were one of the few things I had left of my parents. Chloe was right there, helping me search, her face a perfect mask of sympathy. "I'm so sorry, sweetie," she said, hugging me. "I'm sure they're in a box somewhere. We'll find them." I leaned into her hug, soaking up her comfort while this traitorous voice in my head screamed at me. I was ignoring everything. The opened mail, the weird money jokes, the missing valuables. I ignored it because the alternative was unthinkable. The alternative meant my sister, my only family, wasn't who I thought. She was the person I trusted most. And facing that was more terrifying than losing any perfume or earrings. It would mean losing everything. So I chose to believe her. I chose to trust her. My whole world rested on that promise we made in a hospital waiting room long ago. It would always be us against the world. I couldn't stand the thought that she might be the one I needed protecting from. And that brings us back to the closet. Mark was standing there, holding my old wallet, his face pale. He opened it, and he almost knew something awful was coiled inside. He pulled out two things. The first was a driver's license. The name on it was my name. The address was from an old apartment I lived in 3 years ago. But the picture was Chloe. It was a horrible, grainy DMV photo, but it was undeniably her. Her hair was dyed a brassy blonde I'd never seen before, but the eyes, the smile, that was her. The second thing was a credit card. A sleek, black Visa with my name embossed in silver. I'd never seen it before in my life. "Don't say a word," Mark whispered again, firmer this time. He looked from the cards to my face, and I saw the horror dawning in his eyes, mirroring my own. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't some weird mix-up. This was deliberate. "She's downstairs," he mouthed. "We can't let her know. We need to think." He was right. Confronting her now would unleash a storm of lies and gaslighting. I could already hear it. "Where did you find that? Were you snooping in my things? It's a joke. You're being so paranoid." No, she had been careful. We had to be smarter. That night, after Chloe went to bed, humming cheerfully, Mark and I sat at our new kitchen island. The fake ID and credit card lay between us like live grenades. The trust I had clung to was gone, replaced by a cold, hard anger that felt like a stone in my chest. And I felt so much shame, too. Shame for being so blind, for letting my need for family overrule my gut. "We need proof," Mark said, his voice low and steady. He was my anchor. While I was falling apart, he was already making a plan. "We need undeniable proof of what she's been doing. We need to know how deep this goes." Our investigation started that night. It felt wrong, like we were the criminals, sneaking around in our own house. While Chloe slept down the hall, we huddled over Mark's laptop. First up was the credit card. I found the bank's number on the back and made the call, my heart hammering against my ribs. "Hi," I said, my voice shaking so badly I could barely speak. I'd like to check the recent transactions on my account." I read her the card number. She asked for security questions, my mother's maiden name, my date of birth. Chloe knew all of that. It was sickeningly easy. A moment later, the representative started reading a list of charges. It was a highlight reel of a life I never lived. A $200 dinner at a fancy restaurant in a city I hadn't visited in years. $400 at a designer boutique. A weekend at a luxury spa that costs over $1,000. There were cash withdrawals, hundreds at a time, from ATMs in neighborhoods I'd never set foot in. The list went on for 15 minutes. Each charge was another twist of the knife. She wasn't taking money, she was stealing my identity. She lived a glamorous life while pretending to be my supportive, down-to-earth sister. That joke about a few $1,000s disappearing, it wasn't a joke, it was a confession. Next, we checked our finances. Fueled by a cold rage, I logged into my online banking. For years, I had only taken a fleeting look at my statements. Now I combed through every single line, going back months, then years. And there it was, a slow, steady drain, $50 here, $100 there, always transferred to the same external account I didn't recognize. The memo was always something innocent. Grocery reimbursement, house stuff, utilities, all lies. Over 2 years, she had siphoned over $10,000 from my savings. It was financial abuse, a quiet, systematic robbery by the one person I thought had my back. The final, horrifying piece of the puzzle fell into place a few days later. Mark and I thought she might grab my mail, so we rented a P.O. box without telling her. We also filed a temporary change of address. For the first week, nothing. Then, a flood of letters arrived. Included was the statement for that secret credit card. It had my name and a shocking balance of $30,000. She also mentioned a bank account in my name. I had no idea it existed, and she had been wiring my money there. But the knockout blow was a letter from a collection agency. It threatened legal action for an unpaid personal loan of $20,000. A loan was taken out in my name 8 months ago. My hands shook as I read it. The borrower's address for the loan was a luxury high-rise downtown. This was the same building where Chloe claimed she was subletting from a friend overseas. She told stories about her imaginary friend, the stylish decor, and the beautiful view. All of it was a lie. She used my name, my credit, my entire identity to build herself a secret life. The missing perfume, the expensive earrings, they weren't lost. They were costumes for her second life, the one where she got to be me. The betrayal was so complete, I felt like I was drowning. The stress was immense. I could barely sleep. Every time I looked at Chloe, at her smile, every time I heard her laugh, a wave of nausea hit me. She'd ask if I was okay, telling me I looked tired, and her fake concern felt like acid. I was living with a stranger wearing my sister's face. The person I loved, the one I mourned our parents with, was a ghost. In her place was a thief and a brilliant manipulator. Mark saw what it was doing to me. "We have to confront her," he said one evening, finding me crying in our bedroom. "We have everything. We can't live like this." He was right. It was time. We couldn't kick her out. That would be too easy. She'd vanish and continue the scam. She had to face what she had done. She had to be held accountable. We waited until after dinner. We spread all the evidence on the coffee table in the living room. This was the heart of the new home she acted like she helped us build. The fake ID, the credit card statements, the collection notice, the bank transfers. I felt strangely calm, like the storm inside me had finally settled. "Chloe," I said, my voice steady, "we need to talk." She looked up from her phone, a pleasant smile on her face. "Sure, what's up?" Then her eyes landed on the coffee table, and the smile froze. For a split second, I saw raw, unfiltered panic. It vanished as quickly as it came, replaced by a mask of confusion. "What is all this?" she asked, her voice dripping with fake innocence. "Did you go through my stuff? I can't believe you." "Don't," I said, my voice sharp. "Don't you dare turn this around on me. Tell me what this is." I pointed to the ID with her face on it. Her face hardened. The gaslighting began. "I have no idea what that is. Someone must have planted it. You know, you've been so paranoid since this move. Are you sure you're thinking straight?" Mark stepped in. "We called the credit card company, Chloe," he said, his tone flat. "We have the statements. The dinners, the shopping, the resorts. We also know about the loan and the apartment." Her facade crumbled. She looked from Mark's hard expression to mine and must have seen it was over. She turned on me, her eyes flashing. "This is him, isn't it?" she spat, pointing at Mark. "He's been trying to turn you against me since you got married. He's jealous of us." The accusation was so ridiculous that I almost laughed. "No, Chloe," I said, my voice finally cracking. "The only person who destroyed our relationship is you. You did this. You stole from me. You stole my life." And that's when the dam broke. The lies and accusations washed away, and what was left was raw and ugly. Tears streamed down her face, but they weren't tears of regret. They were tears of self-pity. "You have no idea what it's been like," she sobbed. "You got everything. You always did. The good husband, the perfect house, the stable job. What did I get? Nothing. Mom and Dad always liked you better. They left you more money." It was a blatant lie. Our parents, Will was split right down the middle, and she knew it. She had twisted our entire history into a story where she was the victim to excuse her own horrible choices. "I wanted a taste of it," she went on, her voice pleading. "A little piece of what you have. I was going to pay it all back. I swear I need time." Listening to her, I didn't feel pity. I felt nothing. The love I had for her, that deep bond that had defined me, had been completely hollowed out. There was a space where it used to be. "You didn't borrow money, Chloe," I said, my voice flat. "You committed identity theft. You committed fraud. You didn't want a taste of my life. You tried to steal it." The truth of those words hung in the air between us. Our bond wasn't broken. It had been a lie all along, and I knew there was no coming back from this. What happened next was ugly. I told her to pack her bags and get out of my house. Her self-pity turned to rage. She screamed at me, called me ungrateful, and said I was throwing our family away over a little bit of money. She didn't get it. It was never about the money. It was about the trust she had systematically destroyed. She stormed upstairs. For the next hour, the house was filled with the sounds of her rage, drawers slamming, doors banging. When she finally came down, dragging her suitcase, she paused at the door. I thought, for a second, she might apologize. Instead, she looked at me with cold eyes and said, "You'll regret this. You'll be all alone." Then she was gone. The front door clicked shut, and the silence that fell over the house was deafening. I fell into Mark's arms and cried. I wasn't mourning the sister who left. I was grieving the sister I had lost long ago. The weeks that followed were a special kind of hell. The hardest part was filing a police report. Sitting in that cold station and accusing my sister of a crime felt like a harsh blow. It was no longer a family drama. It was a criminal case. Then came the phone calls. We spent what felt like years on the phone with credit bureaus, banks, and collection agencies. Every call felt like a new humiliation. I had to explain my sister's betrayal to yet another stranger. We had to send affidavits and copies of the police report to prove I was the victim. It was a slow, exhausting process of getting my name back. The total damage was over $50,000 in debt, and my credit score was in ruins. During all this, Chloe tried to reach out, not to apologize but to manipulate. She sent texts and left voicemails. She even had our aunt and some old family friends call me, pushing me to drop the charges and handle this in the family. They only had Chloe's version of the story, that she'd made a mistake and I was being cruel. I didn't respond to any of them. Cutting her out completely was one of the hardest things I've ever done, but I had to. You can't heal when you're still drinking the poison. Months passed. The legal system crawled along. The fraudulent debts were eventually cleared from my name. My credit began its slow recovery. Chloe was charged with fraud and identity theft. The life she built on my name crumbled. There was no victory lap. There was this deep, hollow sadness. My name was clear and she was facing the music, but my family was gone. The price of saving my future was erasing my past. But out of the ashes, something new grew. My relationship with Mark was forged into something unbreakable. He was my detective, my strategist, and my rock. Our new house, which at first felt tainted by her, slowly became our sanctuary. We finished the painting and we planted a garden. We were rebuilding our lives piece by piece on a new foundation of total honesty. I learned I'm stronger than I ever thought. The girl who was too scared to trust her own gut is gone. In her place is a woman who knows that trust has to be earned and protected. I had to make an impossible choice: save my sister from her actions or save myself. I chose myself. I lost the only family I had left, but I protected the new one I was building with my husband. And some days, that feels like the biggest victory of all. What my sister did went so much deeper than money. It was a violation of trust on every level, and rebuilding from it has been a long, painful road. Sometimes the right thing to do is also the hardest, and protecting your peace has to come first. I'm sharing this because I know that betrayal by family is a pain that so many people go through. So I have to ask, what would you have done? Could you ever forgive a family member for something like this? Let me know what you think in the comments. If this story resonated with you, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more. Your support really does mean the world. Thanks for listening.